Here is the uncomfortable truth. Your RAG system can retrieve the right documents and still give the wrong answer.
Yes, retrieval quality and answer quality are related, but they are not the same metric, and teams keep treating them like they are.
That is a brutal mismatch, because a lot of teams celebrate when search gets better.
And then they wonder why users still do not trust the product. The failure often happens after retrieval, during synthesis.
So the model has the evidence in front of it, and still fumbles the answer. How?
Because retrieving relevant documents is only step one, the model still has to select the right facts, resolve conflicts, ignore distractors, and compose an answer that matches the question.
Give me a concrete case, because this is where people wave their hands.
Imagine an internal HR assistant. A user asks, "Can contractors expense travel to the annual summit?" Retrieval returns the travel policy, the contractor handbook, and last year's summit memo, all relevant. But the memo says approved for 2024, while the current contractor handbook says no reimbursement unless pre-authorized by a director. The model blends them and answers yes, contractors can expense summit travel. Retrieval succeeded. Synthesis failed.
So relevance is not enough, because relevance can include outdated, conditional, or conflicting material.
Exactly. Search says, these documents are in the neighborhood. Synthesis has to decide which sentence is the law.
That sounds like a power shift inside the stack. The retriever finds candidates, but the generator becomes the judge.
And if the judge is sloppy, better retrieval just gives it more ways to be wrong. More context can increase confusion, not reduce it.
That is the nasty part. Teams improve top K recall and assume the product got smarter.
But users grade the final answer, not your retrieval dashboard. A system with 90% relevant retrieval can still feel broken if synthesis mishandles the last 10%.
What does mishandling usually look like in practice?
3 common patterns. First, answer averaging. The model merges multiple documents into a compromise that no source actually states. Second, authority inversion. It gives equal weight to a FAQ, a changelog, and a policy doc when one should dominate. Third, question drift. It answers a nearby question because the retrieved text is rich, but not precise.
Question drift is sneaky. The answer sounds polished, so people do not notice it dodged the exact ask.
Right. Ask, what is the maximum file size for uploads on the enterprise plan? And the model answers with general storage limits, because those passages are easier to summarize.
That is a real product risk. A smooth wrong answer beats a clumsy right one in the confidence game.
And that is why the gap between retrieval quality and final answer quality matters strategically. If you only optimize retrieval, you can win offline benchmarks and lose user trust in production.
Let us make that gap tangible. What should a programmer measure besides retrieval relevance?
Measure grounded answer correctness. Did the final answer match the source with the right scope, timeframe, and conditions? Also, measure citation usefulness. Did the cited passage actually support the claim, or was it just nearby text?
So not just did we retrieve the needle, but did the model point to the needle when it answered?
Exactly. Here is another example. A support bot retrieved the current refund policy and a long thread about exceptions for fraud cases. User asks, "Can I get a refund after 30 days for accidental duplicate billing?" The right answer is yes, but only under duplicate charge review. The model sees 30-day limit in one doc, exceptions in another, and produces no, refunds end at 30 days. Great retrieval, bad synthesis.
And now, the company looks rigid and incompetent, even though the data was in the context window.
Which means the winners are not the teams with the biggest context. They are the teams that make synthesis disciplined.
What does disciplined synthesis actually mean in engineering terms?
Use prompts that force extraction before generation. Rank source authority explicitly. Separate current policy from historical context. Ask the model to state uncertainty when documents conflict. And if the answer depends on one clause, require quoting that clause before composing prose.
So the pipeline should not be retrieve and pray. It should be retrieve, sort authority, extract evidence, then answer.
Yes. Because the hard problem in RAG is not only finding text, it is turning evidence into a faithful decision.
which means a lot of teams are solving the visible problem and ignoring the expensive one.
Exactly. Retrieval gets the documents into the room. Synthesis decides whether your product tells the truth.